All right, so today let's get started. Let's take our time getting into our starting pose. So start with an easy cross-legged seat. See if you can cross more at mid-shin. And if it's really uncomfortable and you need to cross more at the ankles, that's fine. But if you can cross at mid-shin, start to bring the feet farther apart so they're more in front of the knees, and then shift side to side so you feel even on the hips. And then take the hands next to you, lift the hips up, and then set them right back down underneath you. So that way you have a nice stacked long spine. Now you can stay right here, or you can play with starting to walk the hands back. And maybe you come down onto one forearm, maybe you come down onto the other forearm. And we're taking this in stages, so you just go to wherever you're comfortable. If forearms are feeling pretty good, you might have to lift the hips up again, and maybe you can come all the way down onto your back. So legs are crossed like easy cross-legged seat, but you're lying down reclined, maybe, or maybe you're still sitting up. So a little bit different opening in the hips and the legs when you're taking this recline version. Then close the eyes wherever you are, start to deepen the breath. And exhale out of the mouth. Breathe in through the nose. Exhale, let it go out of the mouth. One more of those. Breathe in through the nose. Exhale out of the mouth. This time, breathe in through the nose. Right back out through the nose, nice and slow. Keep going. Blink open the eyes. If you're lying all the way down on your back, bring the forearms underneath you to come back up onto the hands, and we'll switch sides. So switch the crossing of the legs. Try to get closer to mid-shin. This side could be different, so see what's happening here. Use the hands to lift the hips up and then just set them right back down underneath you. Start to walk the hands back if you feel like you have space on this side to do that. Just taking it slow. Maybe the forearms come down to the mat. Maybe lift the hips up a little bit more, shifting the glutes toward the heels, and then maybe you come down onto the back. Arms can be by the sides, palms facing up. Come back to your Ujjayi breath. And interlace the fingers. Turn the palms to face away from you and stretch the arms overhead. Wherever you are with this. Unless you're in a position where it feels like it might not be comfortable. But if you're lying down on your back, it should feel good. If you're sitting up upright, it should feel good. And then release the hands down by the sides. If you're on your back, start to make your way up onto the forearms first. Then slowly back up onto the hands, up to seated. Extend the legs out in front of you. Bring the feet wide, bend the legs, and just move the knees side to side. You're sitting with the hands back behind you. And now you'll make your way onto hands and knees, coming into tabletop. From tabletop, let's do a couple cat-cows. Reach the heart forward on the inhale. And back on the exhale, rounding the whole spine. Press into the tops of the feet as you bring the chin toward the chest. Then inhale forward, get long. Exhale, round. One more. Come back to neutral. Step the left toes back behind you. Lift that left leg up just to hip height. If that left hip is lifting up higher than the right, can you lower it so they're level? And you might feel yourself get a little lighter in the right hand. Reach the right arm forward. Keep pressing out through the left heel and reaching forward with the right fingertips. Take another inhale. Exhale, curl, elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Inhale, extend. Stay here. Just set the right hand down. So the left leg's still lifted. Now set the left toes down. Spin that left heel down flat and make sure you can get the whole sole of the left foot down on the mat. Right hand underneath the shoulder, maybe a little bit out to the right. Lift the left arm up. So coming into a modified side plank. Take your time finding it. Right shoulder's going down the back instead of forward. Get lighter. So you're reaching up with the left arm, opening the chest, hug that outer right hip in. If you feel pretty good, maybe you start to press into that right shin a little bit more, lifting the left leg up. So you're pressing out through that left heel. Take one more inhale. Slowly start to bring that left foot back down to the mat, left hand down to the mat, back to tabletop. Right toes step back behind you. Fire up the leg before you lift it. Once you feel that engagement, lift the right leg up, level off the hips. Maybe the left hand gets lighter, so much that you can reach the left arm forward. Here's where you get long. Once the hand's shoulder height and the heel's hip height, just focus on getting the length. Take an inhale. Exhale, curl, elbow to knee. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl. Inhale, extend. Exhale, curl, scoop the belly, round the spine. This time, inhale, extend, stay here. Left hand comes down to the mat. Set the right toes down to the mat, spin the right heel down. Notice if that right foot is lifted, keep the sole of the foot down. Left hand can go out to the left a little bit, especially if you felt wobbly on the first side. Reach the right arm up, come into your modified side plank. Keep that right foot down. See if you can get longer in the spine, the chest, keeping that nice and open. And then maybe you start to press into the left shin and you float that right leg up. And that right hip bone's pointing straight to the side wall. It's not going up toward the sky. So point those right toes to the side instead of up. Take another inhale. Exhale, bring that right hand back down to the mat. Right leg stays lifted. Then set the right toes down, back to tabletop. Bring the forearms down to the mat. Hands can be flat on the mat, or you can interlace the fingers, stacking one pinky in front of the other. See which one feels better. Or if you do one all the time and you're not sure, try the other one. Walk the feet back. Let's come into a forearm plank. So core's already pretty heated up here, which is kind of a nice way to get into your forearm plank. You need that core, and often we kind of forget about that when we just go toward arms or legs, whatever's stronger. But push the mat away from you. Keep reaching the chest forward a little bit so it's not going down toward the mat, but it's lengthening. And then squeeze those inner thighs, lifting the quads. Make sure the outer hips are working and the heels are stretching back. Looking forward a little bit over the top of the mat helps too for length. See if you can press down into the forearms and the hands a little bit more. And then breathe. Start to set the hips down onto the mat. Bring the tops of the feet to the mat. If you haven't already, palms are down onto the mat and you're coming into Sphinx pose. So forearms are shoulder width distance apart. Belly's lifting away from the mat, chest is wide. Neck is long, so if you find yourself looking up, look down the bridge of the nose. And then soften the forehead. And look down at the mat, tuck the toes, come back to forearm plank, lifting the hips, keeping those legs nice and fired up. One hand at a time, plank pose. From plank pose, downward facing dog. Hips go up and back. Little bend in the legs is fine. You can pedal out the feet. You can widen the stance. Maybe start to come into a more traditional downward facing dog. If you widen the feet, maybe they come back to hip width. If you're pedaling out the feet, come back to stillness. And then lift the right leg up and back. Open up the hip, bend the knee, but be mindful of that left shoulder. We want to even with the right. Keep pulling the left hip back as you lift the right knee up. Then level off that right leg, straighten it. Step the right foot forward outside of the right hand, coming into a wide lizard lunge. So you're stretching that left heel back behind you, you're reaching the heart forward. Hands are underneath the shoulders. Trying to take the rounding out of the upper back. Back to downward facing dog. Left leg goes up and back. Open up the hip, bend the knee. Stay even in the chest and the arms. Keep pulling that right hip back as you lift the left knee up. Right heel's going down toward the mat. Come back to a three-legged down dog. Look forward. Step that left foot forward outside of the left hand. Look forward. Hands underneath the shoulders. Left knee and toes pointing straight forward. Back to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look to the top of the mat, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Bring the palms together overhead and down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. Lower all the way down to the mat, nice and slow. Tops of the feet come to the mat. Come into cobra, hands back by the lower ribs. Open up across the chest. Hug those outer elbows in. Stretch the toes back. Then exhale, release. Tuck the toes. Fire up the legs and the belly. Push back up to plank pose. Downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, step, walk, bring the feet up. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Bring the palms together overhead and down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, fold over the legs all the way down. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down to the mat. Step back to plank pose. This time, bring the knees down to the mat. Chest and chin come down, hips are high. Then slide forward, cobra pose. Chest is getting a little bit more open each time. Exhale, release, either plank or you could do hands and knees to come back up. See which one's feeling better this round. Back to downward facing dog. One more of those. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Bring the palms together and down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Bring the palms together and down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, reach the arms all the way up. Bring the palms together and down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down, step back to plank pose, chaturanga. Just go down halfway and then decide cobra or up dog. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Right leg goes up and back. Open up the hip, bend the knee. Step that right foot forward in between the hands, coming into a lunge. And then set that back knee down. Keep the toes tucked. Reach the arms up for a low lunge. So you can sink the hips a little bit, lift the chest. And then start to lean forward. Bring the arms back behind you. Back toes are already tucked. Lift that back knee. So you're hovering over that front thigh as you reach back. Straighten the front leg. Leave the chest right where it is. It's still reaching forward. You're working on straightening the front leg and reaching those arms back behind you. Crescent pose. Bend that front knee. Reach the arms up. Scissor those inner thighs. Lift the lower belly. And exhale, bring the hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, straight back to downward facing dog, or take a modified vinyasa or a regular vinyasa. Left leg lifts up and back. Keep it here, open at the hip, bend the knee. Step that left foot through, up between the hands. Reach the heart forward so you get nice and long in the back leg. Keep the back toes tucked, then gently set that right knee down. Reach the arms up. Back into your low lunge. Maybe sink the hips a little bit, reach the arms up a little bit more. Start to lean forward, arms back. Lift that back knee up and away from the mat. Keep the heart reaching forward and the arms reaching back. Fire up those legs. Straighten the front leg. You can go nice and slow. Try not to lock that front knee if you're able to. Stay with your breath. Crescent pose. Bend the front leg. Start to reach the arms all the way up. Keep that nice lunge in the front leg. Keep stretching that right heel back behind you. Reaching up with the back ribs. Next, exhale, hands come down to the mat. Any way you want, back to downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet forward, up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Come into chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair, Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, hands down to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog, with or without the vinyasa. Right leg lifts up and back. Up to you if you open up the hip. Step that right foot forward, up between the hands. Set the back knee down, reach the arms up. Lean forward, bring the arms back behind you. Lift that back knee up. Fire up those outer hips. Stay in the lunge, keep reaching the heart forward. See if you can stack the right knee over the right ankle. Now start to press into the legs to straighten the front leg. Heart's reaching forward, core is strong. Crescent pose. Find the bend in the front leg, reach the arms up. This time, spin that left heel down flat, open up, warrior two. From warrior two, reverse triangle. Flip that front palm straight in the front leg, reach up and back. Come up to standing, reach the arms out wide, stretch forward as far as you can, coming into triangle pose. Right arm down, left arm up. Come back to warrior two. Hands come down to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog. Left leg reaches up and back. Step that left foot through, up between the hands. Back knee goes down right away. Reach the arms up, low lunge. Slowly start to hinge forward, bringing the arms back behind you. Chest is strong, so are the arms. They'll help you. Lift the back knee up, hover over that front thigh. Squaring the hips. Start to straighten the front leg. Keep the chest where it is. Crescent. Bend the front leg, reach the arms up. Right heel comes down flat, warrior two. Flip the front palm up, straighten the front leg as you reach up and back, reverse triangle. Keep this length in the legs as you come up to standing, arms out wide. Maybe you let the hips go down toward the mat as you lift the chest, then start to reach forward. The hips shift back, left arm comes down, right arm up. Warrior two. Exhale the hands down to the mat. Make your way back, downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, walk, step, lightly jump the feet forward, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. This time chair pose on the inhale. Bend the knees, reaching the arms up. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, hands down, back to plank pose, down dog, vinyasa, you choose. Right leg up and back. Step that right foot forward, up between the hands. Set the back knee down, reaching the arms up. Come forward, arms come back behind you, chest nice and open. Lift that back knee up. Stay over the front thigh with the chest. Keep the arms firm. Start to straighten the front leg. So you're slowly pushing the mat away from you. Crescent. Bend the front leg, reach the arms up. Open up, warrior two. Reverse triangle. Flip that front palm up, straighten the front leg as you reach up and back. Into triangle pose. Take your time with the transition, stand tall, shift the hips back, reach forward. Right arm down, left up. Warrior two. Bend the front leg, look forward, take an inhale. Exhale brings the hands down as you make your way back to downward facing dog. Left leg reaches up and back. Open up the hip, bend the knee. Step that left foot forward up between the hands. Set the back knee down, keeping the toes tucked. Let's reach the arms up. Start to hover forward, arms back. Lift that back knee up. Go slow. Try not to go too fast. And then once you have this and you're feeling pretty steady, straighten the front leg, nice and slow. Keep the strength in the legs. And even here, it's like you're scissoring the legs. Crescent pose. Bend the front leg, reaching the arms all the way up. Warrior two. Right heel comes down flat. Open up the arms. Reverse triangle. Flip that front palm, straighten the front leg as you reach up and back. Triangle pose in your own time. Warrior two. Hands down to the mat. Step back to plank any way you want. Downward facing dog. A few breaths in your downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet forward, nice and light. Inhale up halfway, exhale fold. Bend the knees, chair pose. All the way up to standing, hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, sit back, chair pose. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down, optional vinyasa, back to downward facing dog. A little different this time. Right leg reaches up and back, open up the hip, bend the knee if you're doing that. Step the right foot forward, up between the hands. Left knee comes down, reach the arms up, keeping those toes, back toes tucked. Lean forward, bring the arms back behind you, lift that back knee up. This time we're shifting forward to warrior three. Think about it before you go. Start to shift the weight forward. Lift that left leg up and back. Keep the arms back behind you. Start to bend the standing leg. Reach back, coming back to the place we just were, that lunge. Straighten the front leg. Crescent. Bend the front knee, reach the arms up. Open it up, warrior two. Reverse triangle. Come back up to standing, take triangle. Warrior two. Hands come down to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog. Left leg up and back. Step the left foot through, up between the hands. Set that back knee down, reach the arms up, find the low lunge. Hover forward, arms back. Lift that back knee up. Warrior three, plenty of time to get there. Think about it, start to shift the weight forward, lifting that right leg up and back. Level off the hips. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of the back foot, land it to the right, hovering forward, straighten the front leg. Crescent. Open up, warrior two. Reverse triangle, flip that front palm, get out of that left hip as you reach up and back. Come up to standing, let's take triangle. Triangle should be feeling a little bit better each round. Back to warrior two. Bring the hands down to the mat, make your way back, downward facing dog. Couple of breaths in downward facing dog. Find the length in the legs and the arms. See if you can get the hips up and back a little bit more. Then look forward, bring the feet forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Chair pose. From your chair pose, start to shift the weight over to the right foot. Bring the left knee in toward the chest. You're coming up to standing, hugging the left knee in. Reach the arms up. Extend that left leg out in front of you. Warrior three, take your time. Arms reach forward, level off the hips. Start to bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of that back foot. Keep the arms where they are, straighten the front leg. So you're still reaching forward. Take this to crescent. Bend the front knee, reach the arms up. Hands come together down in front of the heart. Twist to the right, hook the elbow outside of the right thigh. Keep stretching that left heel back. Get long on the inhale and twist on the exhale. With the palms together, turn the fingertips to point away from you, giving yourself a little bit more space across the chest. Right hip hugs in if it's swinging out to the right. Bring the hands down to the mat. Set the back knee down. Keep the toes tucked. Reach the arms up. Back into your low lunge. Then hover forward. Bring the arms back behind you. Lift that back knee. Hands come down to the mat, standing splits. Shift the weight forward to the right foot. Lift the left leg up. Step the left foot next to the right foot. Forward fold. Feet are hip width distance apart. Head and neck are heavy. Come up halfway on the inhale. Fold forward on the exhale. Chair pose. Shift the weight over to the left foot. Hover the right foot, bring it in toward the chest, come up to standing. Left thigh goes back. So if you feel like it's going forward, press it back, level off the hips, reach the arms up, extend that right leg out in front of you like you're pushing something away with that right leg. Warrior 3, keep that engagement in the right leg, keep reaching the arms forward, take your time finding the pose. Bend the standing leg, reach back with the ball of that back foot landing in your lunge. Then straighten the front leg, keep reaching the arms forward. Legs straight, all the muscles firing in the legs, core, chest, arms. Crescent pose. Hands come together in front of the heart, lean forward, twist to the left. Hook the elbow outside of the thigh. Keep stretching that right leg back. Try not to let that right hip drop to the mat. Fingertips point away from you with the hands together. Bring the hands back down to the mat. Set that back knee down to the mat. Reach the arms up, low lunge. Chest comes forward, arms back. Lift that back knee up. Hands down to the mat, standing splits. Shift the weight forward. Straighten the left leg, reach the right heel up toward the sky. Try not to open up that right hip. Right foot next to the left foot. Feet hip width distance apart. Grab the big toes with the peace fingers and the thumb. Come up halfway. And on the exhale, elbows wide, fold back down over the legs. So those big toes are pressing into the fingers and the fingers are pressing up into the big toes. Hips are over the heels, so they probably means shifting them forward a little bit. Shoulders go up toward the hips, away from the ears. Then hands come to the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, hands down, step back to plank pose, maybe a vinyasa, back to downward facing dog. Take your time with this one. From downward facing dog, lift the right leg up and back, open up the hip, bend the knee. Come back to three-legged down dog. Single pigeon. Bring that right shin forward, up behind the forearms. Stretch the left leg back. You can always come on your back and do thread the needle, crossing the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Square the chest forward, square the hips forward. Bring the hands back by the hips. Squeeze those hips together. And maybe you start to walk the hands forward. Maybe you come down onto the forearms. Maybe you use blocks. Maybe you come all the way down. So in your single pigeon, we don't want to feel anything in the right knee. If you are, that's a good sign to come onto your back for thread the needle. And for some of us, we can get that shin all the way up and it's parallel to the front edge of the mat. And then some of us, the foot's way back by the left hip, and that's fine. You're just trying to find that hip opening that settles nicely into your body. If the shin is all the way forward, make sure you're flexing that right foot. If it's farther back toward the hip, it's okay if it's not flexed. And as you're hearing your breathing, you might start to feel that right hip open a little bit more. Maybe go a little deeper into the pose, just naturally without any force. And then one hand at a time, if you're all the way forward, start to make your way back up. Tuck the back toes. You're coming back to downward facing dog. If you're on your back, you can stay there. Just pause before switching sides so we stay at the same place. If you're in downward facing dog, you can pedal out the feet. You can move that right leg around any way that feels good. Come back to your downward facing dog. Lift the left leg up and back. Open up the hip, bend the knee. Start to find single pigeon on this side or thread the needle. And it's okay if you do single pigeon on one side and thread the needle on the other side, if that's what your body needs. Just listen to yourself. Walk the hands back. The right big toes, that's the foot back behind you. Think about pointing that straight back, and that the outer right ankle will hug in a little bit, and that'll free up the lower back as you start to come forward. And start to walk the hands forward. If there's room, maybe you come onto the forearms, blocks. The left hip's really lifted. It's always nice to put something underneath you, whether that's a blanket or a pillow, block, whatever there's space for. Be here with the breath. One hand at a time. If you're in single pigeon, start to make your way back up. Take your time. Tuck the back toes. Make your way back. Down dog, three-legged down dog, pedaling out the feet. If you're in thread the needle, let that go. If you're in down dog, start to find stillness in your downward facing dog. And we'll come into child's pose. Knees come down toward the mat, big toes together. Sink the hips back, bring the forehead down. Arms can be out in front of you or back behind you. See which one feels better. And if you're on your back and you want to stay there, take happy baby. If you're in child's pose, come up to seated, extending the legs out in front of you, and start to make your way onto your back. If you're doing happy baby, let that go. Staying on your back. We'll do a couple of bridge poses, 3. Feel free to use a block if you want to keep cooling down. You'll still get a back bend, and if you're taking a block, it just goes by the hips. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. Now you can grab the outer edges of the mat like you're going to rip the mat apart, and use that to get the shoulders underneath you a little bit so you feel that lift and spreading of the chest. Chin is away from the chest. So if the chin's touching the chest, find some space there. Looking up helps, and where the gaze should be. And then point the tailbone up between the knees. You can stay in this active variation, or you can take that block and slide it underneath the sacrum. And if you're using the block, keep pressing into the legs, finding length throughout the whole body. If you're doing an active bridge, start to make your way back down to the mat. If you're on the block, you stay there. When you're ready, second round, come back up, active bridgers. If you're on the block, try not to relax the legs or any part of the body. Think of the block just giving you a little bit of a support, some push for that length. Tailbone still goes up between the knees no matter where you are. If you're not using a block, slowly bring yourself back down to the mat. Rest here, a couple breaths. Third and final back bend when you're ready. Come back up to bridge, maybe Urdhva if you're feeling like you have a little bit more gas in the tank, you want to burn, and that sounds good and you feel open. If you're in a supportive bridge, still finding that length, still pressing down into the feet and the legs, lifting and spreading the chest because you're creating more space. You've been here a lot longer. One more breath wherever you are. Take the inhale. Exhale brings you back down. If you're using the block, lift the hips up, set the block off to the side, hips come back down to the mat. Let that settle. Knees come together, feet wide. Bring the arms out like a cactus or T-shape, depending on what feels better and what you have the space for. And then keep the feet wide. Just let the knees go side to side. So similar to the way we did when we came out of our first pose. It should just feel like nice movement, not so much of a stretch. Let the knees come all the way over to the left. So that right knee is pointing down and away from you. You can look over the right shoulder. Feet can stay right where they are. If you want a little bit more, the left foot can go on top of the right leg down by the knee. And that just helps you lengthen the right knee and thigh away from you a little bit more as you twist. If you have that left foot hooked, unhook it, keep the feet wide, bring the gaze back up, knees come back up, both knees go all the way over to the right. Stay here, keep the feet wide, gaze goes over the left shoulder. So we're going the complete opposite direction. We take our time settling in. If you want to take it up a notch and it feels good, or you just want to try it, right foot goes on top of the left knee. Keep pointing that left knee and thigh down and away from you. If it doesn't feel good, unhook. If that right foot's hooked, unhook it, keep the feet wide, gaze comes back up, knees come back up, heel toe the feet back to hip width distance, hug the right knee in toward the chest. You can keep the left foot right where it is bent, or you can extend the left leg out in front of you. Keep some, if you decide to extend the left leg out, keep those toes pointing up. And then straighten the right leg, grab onto the back of the right thigh. Same thing here, you're pressing out through both heels. And if those left toes are rolling out, make sure they start to point up toward the sky so that inner thigh is working. Bring the left foot back into so the sole of the foot's on the mat. Bend the right foot, or bend the right leg, bring it down to the mat. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Right foot stays where it is, or you extend that right leg out in front of you. Interlace the fingers behind the left thigh, straighten the left leg, press out through both heels. So legs are not relaxed. Right toes point up toward the sky. For some of us, it might feel like we're pointing them in toward the left side of the mat. Then bring that right foot into the mat. Bend the left leg, both feet down onto the mat. Let's take happy baby, reach through the insides of the legs, grab the outer edges of the feet. You can rock side to side. You can straighten the legs. Straightening the legs, if they're open enough, should feel pretty good. Hips are down on the mat. One last hip opening to close. Bring the knees in toward the chest. Set the feet down onto the mat. Supta Baddha Konasana. So soles of the feet together, knees wide. If you have blocks and you want to take Shavasana this way, that could be nice, but you would need 2 blocks or pillows or whatever to keep the knees even, and you would just place them underneath the knees and you're in Shavasana. If you don't, just stay in Supta Baddha Konasana without any props. I'll tell you when to come out. And if at any point you feel any pulling on the inner thighs, that's your cue to straighten the legs and come into your Shavasana. Close the eyes. Left hand can come to the heart, right hand to the belly. Staying here on your mat. Feeling that comfort coming through the hands and into the body. We'll be here for another couple of minutes coming into Shavasana. You can stay right where you are, or you can extend the legs out in front of you. Just make sure you find a place where you feel nice and comfortable. You can find some separation from the physical body and just be still. You'll start to deepen the breath from your Shavasana. Find some movement in the hands and the feet. And reach the arms overhead. Find a nice stretch. Getting long, waking up. Bend the legs, walk the feet in, and make your way onto your right side. Use the hands to bring yourself up to an easy cross-legged seat. Sitting up tall to close your practice. Eyes closed, face soft. Hands come together. Bow the head to honor and acknowledge your heart and spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up. Blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thanks for joining.